So my presentation is on that is avoidable and you should avoid it. So how many of you guys like owing other people money? Just kind of by raise of hand. Yeah, no one really likes to owe people money. That's what debt is owing other people money. So there are four major types of debt that the average American has. Credit cards, which is over $16,000 on average. Auto loans, which is $29,000 over on average. Student loans, which is over $50,000 on average, and mortgages, which are over 180 on average. When compared to the national income of $59,000 annually, it can be seen how people can think that it's almost impossible not to go into debt. When it comes to credit cards, there are ways to avoid credit card debt. While there are pros to credit cards that people give as an excuse to getting credit cards, they're easy to get, really easy to obtain. There are situations where people have gotten cards under their pets' names, like their dogs and stuff like that. You can get Sky Miles, as some of them offer, which is a big one that my dad uses. And then there's cashback, which is a small percentage of some of your payments to purchases to different companies and stuff like that that you can get cash back on. But there are cons to credit cards, which are interest, fees, and the fact that you instantly go into debt when you make a purchase with a credit card. Now you can say that if I get a credit card, I can just pay off all my debt every month and avoid the interest and fees that come along with it. Well, for those of you who said that, 2/3 of you just lied to yourself, because only 35% of people actually pay off their credit cards monthly. So the best way to avoid credit card debt is to avoid credit cards completely. There's not really, there are reasons, I guess, to get them, but the reasons that, or the cons outweigh the pros, usually. Auto loans. So a lot of people go into debt to buy cars, just through auto loans. There's not really like an excuse to have only a car. Many people say they need a car, but there are alternative forms of transportation, such as walking, which is free, bikes, buses, and new forms of transportation like Uber and Lyft, which are becoming more popular. When you buy a new car, or any car in general, cars virtually only depreciate in value, which means over time they lose value just because of wear and tear on the vehicle. So when you take out an auto loan, you're going to be losing money through the interest, but not only that, you're losing money through the car as it depreciates. So, who wouldn't want this awesome looking Mercedes? But as soon as you drive off the lot, your car's going to depreciate in value, so you might as well just be throwing money out the window at that point. A good alternative method to buying a car while staying out of debt is to buy used. You can buy cars that are far more affordable, which have been used. Student loans. So education is definitely a worthy investment, and we see more people going to colleges and furthering their education after high school nowadays. People say it's worth it to go into debt for college or furthering your education because the investment can pay out further in your life, as it's proven that with a higher education you can get higher pays and stuff like that. To avoid that though, when you're going into college and stuff like that, you need to prepare now, especially for us, because we have the opportunity, a great opportunity right now to, as we're applying for colleges and like grants and other colleges and scholarships and stuff like that. You can also work and save up. And with that, there's also companies and the government, if you work for them, to offer like paid internships and stuff like that, or student loan forgiveness, and also offer to pay for college sometimes. mortgages. So I'm guessing most people don't want to live under a rock, so most people want to live in a house or in an apartment. So homes, there's a big argument between whether or not it's worth it to go into debt to buy a house, because they can appreciate and depreciate in value based on the market. And we actually see this right now. So in the past couple of years, interest rates have been really low on houses. So it was a great time to buy in. And right now would be a great time to sell, because you can see the interest rates are starting to go up because of factors like inflation and stuff like that. So while you can make money off of a house, it is a very risky purchase if you go into debt to buy it. Because if you go into debt by taking on a mortgage to buy a house, you put yourself in an opportunity that you're losing money through interest by paying it, like you owe whoever the lender is, like X amount of money in the end based on your loan and stuff like that. And if the market were to crash or something like that, and at that point, you owe substantially more than you did before because of how much your house depreciated, like how much your house depreciated in value. And people say that, oh, I can just beat the system. You can't beat the system. When you sign up for a mortgage and stuff like that, banks and lenders have prepared significantly, like the contracts and stuff you sign, to the point that they will almost always come out with the win at your loss. A great way to buy a house without going into debt is if you rent and save at the same time. So renting is, depending on where you live, it's a very affordable form of housing. And then while you could be putting money towards house payments and stuff like that, instead you could be taking that money that you'd be putting towards a house payment and using it to save up for a house. For example, let's say you make $50,000 a year, which is less than the average income in America. And let's say you are able to live off of $25,000 that each year, and you want to buy a house for $100,000. If you consistently lived, you made the same amount and you lived at the expenses of $25,000 a year, you can take that other $25,000 for 4 years and save up for those 4 years to buy a house. In conclusion, debt is financial procrastination. When you go into debt, you're basically putting it off to later, like the problem of the payments and stuff like that, to your future self, and just because you wanted whatever it was, like then and there. It's easy to obtain. There's a reason companies have made it so easy to obtain credit card debt, auto loan debt, home mortgage debt, because they know they can make a ton of money off of you through interest and fees and stuff like that. In order to avoid debt, you need to be willing to sacrifice, which goes along with needs over wants. You need to be able to know what you need and not impulsively buy what you want. Just because you have a credit card doesn't mean you should go out and buy like a purse, or maybe you go out and you go to like Cheesecake Factory just because you can. And one of the most important things is to be educated. Right now is a very important time to get educated before we go on to make these huge purchases in life. And a lot of us don't really understand how like these processes work, which is kind of how companies can take advantage of us, especially with like mortgages, auto loans, and student loan debt. You never know exactly how much you really need to take out, and a lot of times, often people take out more than they need, which ends up hurting them more in the long run. And the pros to not going into debt are that with that money that you would be paying off your credit cards and home mortgages with and stuff like that, you can be taking that money that you'd be putting into those payments and putting it aside towards savings, retirement, and other types of funds that help you build your wealth instead of bringing you down in wealth. And then this is just an awesome quote that I found, which is the borrower is slave to the lender, and the debtor to the creditor. by Benjamin Franklin, which is as soon as you buy something and you go into debt to buy it, that thing basically owns you. You don't really own it. Whoever the lender was, they own it at that point. And so my call to action for you guys is to become more educated and be willing to make the sacrifices needed to stay out of debt, because your future self will definitely thank you.